Hi, my name is Tim Middleton. I'm a software engineer with the Coherence development team here at Oracle. Welcome to this screencast where we will cover the new Coherence CLI. Our agenda for today is a quick introduction, some of the features, command overview, examples, how we change output format, and I'll go through a demo. What is the Coherence CLI? It's a lightweight tool in the tradition of tools such as kubectl, which can be scripted or used interactively to manage and monitor Coherence clusters. Why would you use a CLI? It complements your existing Coherence management tools and allows you to interactively monitor your Coherence clusters from a lightweight terminal-based interface. It allows you to monitor service status HA during rolling restarts of Coherence clusters. You can script your Coherence monitoring and incorporate these results into other management tooling. You can output results in various formats, including text, JSON, and utilize JSON path to extract attributes of interest. Gather information that may be useful for Oracle support to help diagnose issues. You can connect to Coherence standalone or WebLogic server-based clusters from commercial versions 12.2.1.4 and above, as well as the latest Coherence Community Edition versions. You can retrieve thread dumps and Java flight recordings across members and make changes to various modifiable JMX attributes. CLI provides comprehensive monitoring and management, and I've broken this up into a number of sections. So first you have to work with cluster connections, and we provide automatic discovery via the name service of Coherence clusters. We also provide the ability to manually add clusters. You can use standalone or WebLogic server as mentioned before. It supports 12.2.1.4 and above and the latest Coherence Community Editions. You can actually manage context so that you run commands in a particular context or a connection, and you can secure access to the REST API via authentication and SSL. There's many monitoring features where we can look at clusters, members, machines, services, caches, topics, can work with persistence and create and manage snapshots, proxy servers and proxy server connections, HTTP servers, executors, which is a new feature in 21.12, as well as federation, elastic data, and HTTP sessions. In terms of management, you can start and stop reporters, you can create and manage JFRs or Java flight recordings, you can retrieve thread dumps efficiently across members, you can also dump the cluster heap, and as mentioned before, you can set modifiable service or member level attributes such as thread count, expiry delay, or log levels. You can configure tracing, monitor the service status HA, and set other management refresh attributes. In terms of display options, there's a default tabulated format, which is a text-based output. You could also provide a wide option to display additional information for many commands. Also have the ability for JSON support and JSON path support to extract attributes. And there's a watch option to continuously watch data. There's also the ability to generate shell completion scripts for various shells. The CLI has inbuilt help. The ---- help displays detailed information about each of the commands. There is also comprehensive documentation online. The cohctl command is a binary and written in Go. It's currently available for the following platforms and architectures. It's written using the Cobras CLI library, which creates a consistent and easy-to-use CLI. It requires a cluster with management over REST enabled to connect to, and it supports the help option on all commands for ease of use. We've got some examples on the right here of some of the commands like get clusters, get services, describe service, get caches with an O wide option, start a reporter, get members and give me the JSON format, and so on. So there are quite a few examples here. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, but as we said before, we can work with cluster connections. You can set a context for the cluster you want to work with. You can get machines, members, services, caches, topics, and you can work with persistence to create snapshots and recover them. Federation too, if you have a grid edition cluster. Proxy servers, HTTP servers, elastic data, HTTP sessions, executors, which are new in 21.12. You can use NS lookup or the Coherence name server lookup to inspect clusters. You can start and stop reporters. In terms of diagnostics, it's very useful. You can get JFRs, you can create and start and stop JFRs. You can retrieve thread dumps across members and other various statuses. So if we look at the output format, so by default the output format is table, which displays a tabular format. We can also provide -o wide, which will display additional information if the command supports it. So in this case, we're displaying additional information on the hits, misses, hit probabilities, for example, for caches. We can also use the -o JSON to get JSON formatted output. And we can see here we're also piping this through JQ just to get it nicely formatted. We can also use JSON path on most commands to provide or apply a JSON path expression to retrieve anything of interest. So for in this example here, we're interested in all caches where the total puts are greater than 50,000.
Let's now have a look at the CLI in action. So I've got the CLI installed, so I'll use cohctl version to display the version details. I'll use cohctl without any arguments and it'll display the detailed help. So you can see here all the different commands and all the flags that are available. So let's first work with clusters. So if I say cohctl get clusters, you see there are no clusters. So what I want to do is add a connection to a cluster which is running management over rest. So I can use discover clusters. And what that does is it uses the Coherence name service and it looks at the default port of 7574 on localhost in this case, or you can specify the host. And it's found a cluster with management over rest. So it says, do you want to add it? Yes. If I do cohctl get clusters, you can now see I've got that. So I'm going to set the context to be my cluster, which means that any commands, so that's showing you that's the cluster, any commands that are run will be run in the context of this cluster. Let's have a look at a few things. So let's look at the members, cohctl get members. We can see here we've got we've got 4 members and it's got information about it, including the port, process, the role. We can also provide -o wide option, which will then display more information. You can see that here. We can also look at a JSON format here. So let me pipe it through JQ to get it nicely formatted. You see this is the JSON format. And you've also got the ability to use JSON path. So for example, here's one I prepared earlier. I'm going to get all the members and then I'm going to look at any members. The available memory is less than 250 meg and use display node ID memory max and available. You can see here that we've got one member, which is actually less than 250 megabyte available. Let's have a look at a few other things. So if I go cohctl get, this shows you all the things that we can get. So let's have a look at caches. We display the caches there. We can see the customers and orders down the bottom. We can also use the wide format if we want to, which gives us more details. Then we can also describe an individual cache or an element. So in this case, we can describe a cache, we can describe a member, we can describe anything that's supported. So describe cache orders, and we need to provide the service that it's on. And we can see we've got details, we've got individual node details for the access, the front and back tiers, as well as storage and index information. If I provide the O wide option again, I can get more detailed information about that. We can also describe a cluster. So cohctl describe cluster and provide the cluster name or connection name, and then that gives us a summary. So we can see here we've got the cluster details, we've got machines, we've got the members, the number of members. By default, it doesn't show all the members, and you can use a minus of the base option, which I'll show in a moment. persistence details, caches, proxy servers, and so on. So if I use the -v option, we can now see more information. So we can see the individual members, we've got the services, we've got persistence information, reporters, we've got executors, and all sorts of things, flight recordings. And then I can actually do a -o wide option now, which will give us the most information, which now provides all the extra information about the caches and the services and so on. So let's have a look at services so we can get services as well. That's very useful for seeing the status HO values. I'll give the O wide option. And what we can also do in most of the get commands is provide a -w, which is like a watch command, which just continuously displays the information so you can view different attributes. So for example, this would be very useful for when you're doing rolling restarts to ensure that your status HA is safe before you continue with your rolling restart. You can also script this as well, which there's an example on the website how to do this. There's lots of commands, but what I'd like to show you now is just a couple of ways you can actually modify information as well. So if I say get members, if we then cohctl describe member 1, we can see all the information about that individual member, and we can see the logging level is 2 for member 1. So I might want to change that. So I can say cohctl set member and member 1, and if I'd use the -help option, I'll just go to here, make it a bit clearer. You can actually get the detailed help about that, and I can use an attribute. So I'm going to set an attribute of logging level and the value of 9. So I want verbose logging. When you're doing a change like that, it confirms it. And if I then now do a describe of member 1, we can now see that the logging level, if we go back up here, is now 9. The last thing I wanted to show is how we can retrieve things like thread dumps. So a lot of the time, Oracle support would ask you to provide some thread dumps over a period of time. So 5 thread dumps every 10 seconds on the members. So you can actually use the command called retrieve thread dumps. Okay, so let's use the help so we can see what it is. So retrieve thread dumps, we can have a delay between it, and the default is 10, and we're going to do 5 thread dumps, and where do you want the output to go? So we're going to leave the defaults and say for all nodes, our output directory is going to be temp, which is local. So it's going to say, give you a confirmation saying it's going to take 40 seconds. So what it's doing now is retrieving 5 thread dumps each 10 seconds. So it's done the first one. So it waits 10 seconds, it'll do the second one. It's there. So if I look in here and have a look at thread dumps, we can see them being retrieved there, up to 60%. Almost there, so it should be up to the 4th one soon. There we go, it's completed the 4th one, 80%, and then the last one will make it 100%. It's done. So it's written to temp, and we can see we've got the thread dumps there. So that's node 1, the first one, and we can see here the thread dump details here. So it can be very useful. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of the CLI.
Thanks for watching this screencast, and I hope you found it useful. If you'd like to learn more about the CLI or Coherence, then please go to the following resources. Thank you.